It's time for Twig This Week in Google. Jeff and Gina have the week off, but we've got a great alternate cast for you. Kevin Marks, Drew Olanoff. We'll talk about the latest from Google, Facebook, and more. Stay tuned. This Week in Google is next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for This Week in Google is provided by Cachefly. CACHEFLY.com. This is Twig, This Week in Google, episode 179, recorded January 2nd, 2013. I can't believe it's not Java. This Week in Google is brought to you by Squarespace, the fast and easy way to create a high-quality website, blog, or online portfolio. For a free trial and 10% off your first purchase on new accounts, go to squarespace.com and use the offer code TWIG1. And don't forget to try their brand new developer platform for complete code control. It's time for Twig This Week in Google. And it's the bizarro Twig this week because Jeff Jarvis is on assignment. Gina Trapani is on assignment, so we begin the new year with, I don't want to call him the second string because I love both these guys. Kevin Marks is here. Kevin's worked everywhere, including the Google, including the Apple, currently working at Salesforce, right?
That's right.
And he British Telecom before that. He does a great show called Tumblevision. Have you guys come back? Are you off your hiatus?
We're still on hiatus. We're basically still looking around for a producer to help us out with that because we realize that we're not producers. But we're going to try and revive it this year, yes. It's been quiet since March-ish.
Don't tell Chad, but a good producer is worth his weight in gold.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Chad's not here. He's on vacation. Actually, Karsten Bondi, who I've worked with since ZDTV, since the site on MSNBC, produced this show, and he's a great producer, too. Don't tell him. Don't tell him that. Also here from TechCrunch, Drew Olanoff. Great to see you.
Good to see you, sir. Thanks
in person. I love that.
Here in beautiful Pennsylvania.
We are just very happy today to have you both. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
To you both. What'd you do for New Year's Eve?
We played Cards Against Humanity and played Nintendo.
I'm amazed at how many people played Cards Against Humanity on
I had
New
never
Year's
played.
Eve.
It's amazing.
It's
and embarrassing.
Somebody played it on the show late night on the network, and we heard a little bit about it later.
Whoops.
Have you ever played that, Kevin?
I have played it once or twice, yes. It was a big thing at XOXO conference. They were
gnarly.
Sponsors of it or something.
It's a card game, but you're doing horrible things.
You're saying horrible things.
You're trying to say horrible things.
You're trying, yes.
Yeah, you're not actually doing
the
them.
nastiest sentence by basically doing Mad Libs with what you've got.
In fact, they call it a card game for horrible people.
Yes. But the nice part about it's open source. You can download the cards and then print out whatever you want. Wow. You can make your own.
I'm so tempted to pick up a.
We need to do a TWiT.
No, we don't. We did it. And I got the emails. Not nice because it is horrendous.
No. We could do a TWiT set of cards.
Oh, that are nice.
Stuff that has to do with your show.
Yes,
that would be fun.
And that would be nice.
Yeah, maybe the folks
open source them.
Yes.
So normally I don't like doing shows on January 2nd because what could possibly have happened over the past year? But there are a few things. For instance, this morning Avis said we're going to buy Zipcar.
That's interesting.
For $500 million. Zipcar is in San Francisco. Have you ever used it, Drew?
Yes, I have.
So the idea is they're just sitting there in special marked parking spaces. You have a card on account with them, right?
Absolutely. You tap your thing and you hop in the car. And
where do you get the key?
They leave them in. They have a thing where a dongle.
The dongle pops out.
It's quite amazing, and it actually leaves open a hole now. Now that Avis has them,
that's what
could step up.
Frankly scares me because I wonder if Avis bought them to put them out of business because it's got to undermine their traditional rental car business. Kevin, have you ever used this?
I haven't used Zipcar. No.
A lot of people come up here use Zipcar to come up here because we have a lot of San Francisco correspondents who don't have cars.
Indeed.
Yes.
We don't need them.
Don't need them.
Yeah, well, I live in San Jose, so I need cars, but I'm in San Francisco. I use a bicycle.
Right. Well, that's funny because in Paris and many other European cities, they have Zipcar, only it's bikes.
Zip bikes.
Yeah, and London has those, yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
They're really good.
You rent a bike. They're not great bikes, but they're not horrible bikes, and you can go anywhere, and they have a special locking bike rack.
Park it, leave it, don't worry about it.
So, of course, now, inevitably, the securities litigation firm of Powers Taylor, along with Willie Briscoe, the ex-U.S. SEC attorney, have announced they will be investigating the Zipcar sale and possibly filing a lawsuit to block the deal. Right. Turns out that at $500 million, that's only $12.25 per share, which is below their 52-week high of $16.25.
Sold a little cheap there.
What's it trading at the moment?
Well, that's a good question.
Well,
isn't it?
$8 at the moment.
I think
you can't say, you should have paid us what it was.
I think I'm pretty
$12.20. So they're paying a nickel premium. Seems to me that's the established going price. That's what people are paying on the stock market. You want them to pay a premium.
Its closing price on December was $8.24.
Well, there you go.
Right. And the deal's probably been in the...
And now it's at $12.20.
This is one of those things where they're probably trying to squeeze a little more money out of Avis.
Well, there's always going to be litigation. There's litigation for litigation.
You're right. You're right. If you're a Zipcar stockholder, you can join the class action suit.
If you're a Zipcar stockholder, you should be happy because you never know what could happen, and the company's worthless.
Take the $500 million.
Run with it. Drive with it.
Drive with it.
Drive away fast.
But from a point of view of users, I think it's a little scary because I hope that Avis keeps this business. Maybe they see this as a important part of their portfolio of rental cars,
right? And
don't kill it.
Well, I mean, they're going to have to run it as a separate entity. I mean, once they start mixing the two, then we know how that goes.
It goes away.
Lines start getting crossed and forget it.
Right.
It's blurred. It's gone.
And then it's just
the same thing.
Zipcar becomes the Avis Bureau on Mission Street.
This is a cheaper version of an Avis rental car.
Anyway, I thought that was an interesting story. Thanks for joining us. And go ahead, Kevin.
Wasn't that excited about Zipcar compared to Get Around and the ones where you were actually renting your own car out? Those seem more interesting to me.
Well, they're interesting only because the mind reels with the possibilities. You have an extra car, it's lying around, you're not using it today, somebody can just borrow it?
Well, the logical one for me makes sense is trains and train car parks and airport car parks because that's where you leave your car 2 weeks. And that would be a direct
It's just sitting there.
Great idea.
It's a great idea until somebody runs it into a wall.
Well, you got insurance.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like Airbnb for cars.
Bingo.
Yeah. So that's what that's what Get Around does, but you've got to work out where to pick it up. Whereas the airport car park for me is like I'm paying them for $15 a day while my car sits there. It'd be nice if someone rent it for a few days while I'm away, and it would be at the airport.
Reminds me of that episode of Seinfeld where George Costanza found a very cheap parking lot. Turned out they were using his car to turn tricks.
There you go.
Kind of using it while you're not using it, right?
Well, this is the self-driving part of the theory of the self-driving car, isn't it? Is that we spend all this time, pay all this money to have these cars sitting around most of the time, just so they're there when we need them.
Right.
And Zipcar is one answer to that, and Get Around is another. But the self-driving car thing is you say, I need a car, and the car drives around to your house and picks you up. And also, when you go somewhere, you don't need to park it. You just get out of the car and it goes and lurks somewhere else and comes back when you want it. So that's one of the obvious things you can do with a self-driving car. And once you've got that, but the other thing is you can do the same kind of car sharing thing where you just say, okay, I have an interest in a pool of cars in this neighborhood, and when I need one, it'll turn up and it'll go away, and so you can use fewer cars and have fewer parking spaces. Right. So there's a whole bunch of sort of interesting things that become possible once you can arbitrage these things between people because the transaction cost goes down. Buying a new car is this enormous transaction. Even renting a car is fairly painful, but these things are sort of converging on that easiness of this is there when I need it. But you need some, at the moment, the rental companies will bring a car to you, but that means they've got to have two drivers to deal with it for it.
Right.
Two cars have to come out. No, that's everybody who talks about autonomous vehicles, the people who are doing this research and stuff, that's what they really say is it's the end of car ownership.
Yep.
And it makes sense because a car is such a huge consumable that is only used a small percentage of the total time. It's a huge drain on the environment.
Correct.
Why should we build a car per person or two cars in some cases per people when you could have one car serve 10 people just as much more efficiently and just as effectively?
Yeah, collaborative consumption is like the big buzzword right now because you're seeing things like Airbnb and all that. You just had a house that you can't be at, but you could make money off of it.
How do you convince? And maybe it's an American illness or a first world illness. How do you convince people that it's better not to own?
Well, I mean,
people want to own stuff, don't they? I mean, they don't like to rent.
They don't.
Right.
Well, this is somebody. I saw somebody give a Ignite talk about this a couple of years ago, and they said actually this is less true. If you look at the really rich people, they just rent stuff.
That's true. Lease. Yeah.
They lease apartments. They lease holidays. They do lease to buy. And partly there are tax gains that because it means you can do it as a company, but it means you've got option value. It means you can say, okay, I don't have this commitment of this giant house and this to maintain and this car I've got to take to the shop and all the sort of little niggly things of ownership. Actually, if you've got enough money, it's easy to rent stuff. Right. And the trade-off, that transition has been gradually happening. Because it's weird. It used to be the other way around. It used to be if you were rich, you had land,
right,
and other people paid you rent.
Right.
They had a rentier class who owned the property and do that. But now there's a financial class that actually spends all their time renting and stuff and doesn't own much.
That's probably chiefly for tax reasons.
It is. Plus, they get bored with things.
But it is really adds to your flexibility. They said that one of the reasons Detroit went downhill so fast after the most recent economic crisis was that everybody was upside down in their houses. And so because they were all subprime loans, so it just made a lot more sense just to walk away and just leave them there. And the banks didn't want them. So it just and actually the same piece suggested that if you're young, you're smart, you do not buy, you rent. Because the problem is you need to be able to go to where the jobs are. When there were no jobs in Detroit, owning was a bad thing. If you'd been renting, you just pick up stakes and you move on. You got to go where the resources are. So it does make sense, I guess.
I think it starts catching on once people figure out that they could take that money and put it elsewhere. So if the American dream is to own a house, why own a car when you could just save that money, put it aside? And
who's going to start making this sexy and appealing? I guess Zipcar has done a lot to that.
Clearly.
Airbnb.
Airbnb definitely has, yeah.
But there's still people who are afraid of the idea. They're like, I wouldn't want my house, other people living in it. But once they do it and the money comes in, they're like, well, that was great.
Is this why the venture capital community was so excited by Airbnb, Kevin? They really, I thought at the time, people were, I can't remember who it was, but the VCs were saying, oh, this is going to disintermediate everything. This is going to change everything. I thought, wait a minute, it's a vacation exchange. It's not.
Well, no, but I think, actually, it took them a while to catch on to Airbnb. There are a lot of, if you actually listen, a lot of them turned it down.
Indeed. Fools they are.
They were saying, oh, who would do that?
Yeah.
But, yeah, I suppose the other thing is VCs are in the class of people who have two homes.
Right.
And so they're used to either renting them or renting them out or have all that. And so for them, it's like, you mean you could be the managing agent for my Tahoe cottage? Oh, they understand that aspect of it. But the other, the other aspect is when you're traveling, you want to stay somewhere. Now, if you're a business traveler and your employer's paying, you'll stay in go for the full service thing. But my last trip to the UK was a flying visit because my son had a college interview, and my mum and sister wanted to meet up with us while we were there, and we looked at it, and it was actually a lot easier and cheaper to rent a flat that sleeps 4 on Airbnb than actually get enough hotel rooms to cover it in London. So, and it was straightforward to do. So that for me, that was like, oh, there's a crossover point here where this makes a lot of sense.
It's a mindset of utility, too. Nobody gets any in their homes. They don't get internet hardwired, right? You rent. You have a line that comes in and you have a cable modem and you don't want it, you can get rid of it. And the same thing with a car. Drive a car for a week. Don't like it. Try a different car.
Maybe it's your generation because I see the co-working spaces in San Francisco. People don't have offices.
It's huge.
They rent time in an office space. They rent a receptionist. They rent and they don't. And it is important to be flexible.
Why be tied to something?
Right.
And if you really like a space, then you can stay there. Figure out how to get a space just like it.
I'm of the older post-war baby boom generation. We all wanted our little Levittown houses.
Yeah.
And our little piece of the world.
It just takes us longer to realize what we really want.
Yeah. And I look at people like you and Kevin Rose who are just mobile, liquid, moving around like that.
It scares my parents, but they're getting used to it.
It does, doesn't it?
It does.
As a parent too, doesn't it, Kevin? It's like, kids, you should have a job for life and you get a gold watch and you have a house with a cottage and the picket fence and the...
Right.
Well, no, I'm sitting in my
old.
garden.
I'm really old.
In suburbia here, so I'm not necessarily the representation of that generation. But
That's
no,
true.
it is. But the thing of being able to change jobs and having that flexibility is important. But also the other thing is a lot of this is it is about complexity of transactions. The reason we had offices was that's where the infrastructure was. You had your desk and you had your colleagues in the meeting rooms and the telephone system and the computers and all this infrastructure and a mail room and stuff. There was a place there because that was what you needed to do business. And the challenge now is that and there was a separate realm. It was also, I can give you my business card because that's a business card. It doesn't have my home phone number on it. Whereas now my phone's in my pocket, my laptop's, here, my tablet, I can do business from anywhere. I do. I work from here most of the time. Going to San Francisco, I need to. And there are a lot of people who no longer need that office space or are able to not have to spend 2 hours a day going up and down to, somewhere else because that's where the office is.
Yeah. Overhead is scary.
We're going to talk about ennui, boredom, and jadedness next. Seems like the entire tech pundit community, from Mike Arrington on down, is just bored with the whole thing.
It's a good topic.
Yeah. Why is Brian Block says, I'm quitting Instagram. TechCrunch founder Mike Arrington says, I'm bored. It's boring. Is it really boring? We'll find out in just a minute. But first, let me tell you about Squarespace.com. There's nothing boring about Squarespace. If it's time for a website, you want two things. You want the best hosting, absolutely the best hosting, and you want the best content management software running on top of it. Actually, you really want three things, and you want a domain name. Squarespace is going to give you all three if you go to squarespace.com right now. You can try it for free. I love it that our sponsors, to every one of them, offers a free trial. That says to me, we think, we're good enough that you could try this free. You don't need a credit card or anything. 2 weeks, try it. And we know we're good enough. You're going to come back. You're going to buy. So take advantage of this. Go to squarespace.com. Click the yellow Get Started button. You can very easily import in your existing site. They have import tools for all the major blog APIs. So you're going to start with a gorgeous design that is, by the way, very modern, more modern than most of these other engines because it's mobile responsive. That means it is designed to work on any size screen from iPhone all the way up to 27-inch monitor. Your site's going to look great. The layout engine makes it easy. You don't have to be an expert by any means in CMS software, CSS, or HTML5. It does it all. You get advantage of all of this stuff, but it's kind of automatic. Now, if you are a developer, if you do use HTML5 and CSS3 and JavaScript and all that stuff, you'll love their developer platform. It's got a great editor with syntax coloring and all of that stuff. But you don't need to take advantage of these great things. You go to squarespace.com, try it, play with the templates. By the way, content and design completely separate, so you can you change templates at a whim. Every day you have a new template, and your content's all there. Your links are all there. The SEO is the same. In fact, the importer works great as well because it will preserve all of that stuff. If you need a portfolio, if you're a photographer, an artist, a designer, Squarespace is great for that. Really is fabulous. The galleries. You can have as many galleries as you want. Actually, I'm going to show you the pricing in a second because there's two plans. One of them is just unlimited everything. For bloggers, it's, of course, got share buttons for Facebook, Twitter, Google+, LinkedIn, everywhere. Reddit, Pinterest. I want you to try it out. Now, if you decide after 2 weeks, and you don't need a credit card, just click the get started. Just need a name, email address, and the name of your site. If you decide to buy Squarespace.com, standard is $8 a month. That's hosting plus the software if you buy an annual plan. If you buy an annual plan, you can also get the unlimited plan for $16 a month. Now, that's, I think, the one you want if you're going to get serious about this because it's unlimited pages, galleries, unlimited galleries. So if you're a pro photographer, you have one for each client. Unlimited blogs, unlimited bandwidth. You get slash-dotted. We mention you, God forbid. You cannot bring a Squarespace site down, and you don't get a bandwidth bill afterwards. It's unlimited. Unlimited storage, unlimited contributors, and if you get a year plan, they'll register the domain name for you, hook it all up for you for free. Just really great. So here's the deal. Whatever you buy, you're going to get 10% off your first purchase. That's why the annual plan is probably a good idea. When you use the offer code TWIG1. It's the first month of the year, TWIG1. That's it. TWIG1. Squarespace.com. The best way to create a high-quality website, blog, or online portfolio. We all know Mike Arrington. We know Mike likes to stir things up. Yeah. Does he come around the office?
We see him. I mean, you know, Crunch Fund has a small office within our office. We see him once in a while.
He still writes for TechCrunch, but because he became a venture capitalist, he and MG and others have kind of pulled back a little bit from the daily reportage.
Indeed.
Mike, though, on the last day of the year posted, "I'm bored." What's next? It's about 2013, and I say I'm a little bored. The blogger in me is, he says, as an investor, things are peachy. But as a consumer and observer of tech, things feel like 2002 to me. A lot of belt tightening. Yeah, mobile. Yeah, I get it. Everything's mobile these days. Let's go mobile. But really, that's just an IQ test. When you see bold new startups with nothing but a desktop strategy, you know they don't get it. And you just go, nice, kid. I'll see you later. But he says most of the mobile stuff is just radioactive decay from the iPhone launch in 2007. Yeah. Now, I don't know if that's fair. You could also say the other way. The iPhone began something that was a transformation and is just now kind of getting in gear. I don't think it's decay. I think it's the opposite. I'm not going to ask you to attack Mike Arrington.
Oh, I disagree with him wholeheartedly.
Oh, good. Thank you.
But I think he made some really good points. Go ahead.
Well, and then Ryan Block says, I'm out of here. I killed my Facebook. Now I'm killing Instagram. And I know the terms of services are all right. Yeah. I just don't like it. And then somebody else was writing.
He was making an interesting point, but his point was, I've just realized that I don't actually use rid of anything.
Yeah.
I have all these vestigial accounts on these different services. And I only realize it when they get sold to someone else and start spamming me.
Right. And that's a good point.
My colleague JP was saying this today. He said, is there a way of keeping track of all the apps you delete from your phone? Because that would be really useful information. It's like, what have my friends deleted this week? And I know Apple used to make you review them, ask you to review them as you delete them. They stopped doing that because the developers got really sad about it. But it is this signal. It's like, you know, I got a reminder from Plaxo yesterday telling me to send an e-card to edit.
Wow.
It's like,
there's
talk about us. That's blast from the past.
Years ago. Wow, flashback.
That really is 2002.
Yeah, it is.
Right. You know, it's like there's this sort of weird thing where, you know, Tim Berners-Lee says eventually all websites turn into porn sites, but I think there's this sort of intermediate stage where all these sites turn into spammers and send you emails to tell you about other people's birthdays. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Why are you reminding about other people's birthdays?
Yeah.
So on the one hand, you could, I mean, it really is glass half empty, half full. You could say that we're in an amazing creative renaissance with 1,000 ideas germinating, many of them crap, but who cares because there's many others that are great. Or you could say, bored, I've seen it all before. When is somebody going to do something completely new and innovative? You know, you're always waiting in technology for the big paradigm shift.
Sure. I think the point of that article was to smack some people around and go, hey, wake up. You know, we're entering a new year. Like, look, when Instagram was bought by Facebook, being a tech blogger, my inbox was full of, you should check out our photo sharing app. Now that Instagram is gone because Facebook bought it, it's like, no, they're not gone. They're fine. You should check this out, and this is the next big thing. That is boring.
Yeah.
Very boring and annoying after a while. So, I mean, you know, Mike goes over the top. That's his deal. But I think this year, if people get involved in different areas like healthcare, education, like more niche stuff, we say this every year, let's be more niche. It's true. It's like, don't give me a photo sharing app. Give me a photo sharing app that helps my life in this way. Like, let's think about consumers and stop thinking about, like, the tech circle where you think you'll get on TechCrunch if you build this.
Right.
It's boring.
Well, but it's, I mean, you know, and you've had apps that disrupt, that win disrupt, that do those kinds of things. You know, it's not like that the only thing you cover. But the challenge is that part of this is that it's so much easier to make things now.
Right,
so
it's true.
You can throw these things together fairly quickly, and so I imagine that, you know, they go, oh, I've just built this thing, and then they email everyone at TechCrunch and go, hey, I built this thing, and you're like, yeah, and so is everyone else.
Right.
Well, what's your story?
Nice.
Are we? And there's also, I think, a social overload that we are all experiencing a little bit, and maybe those of us on the in the punditry field experience it more than others. But people are tired. Facebook, Twitter.
I'm hearing it from more normals, as we call them, some folks that aren't in tech.
We tried to do it all. We tried to post on Google Plus and Facebook and Twitter, and we're exhausted.
Yeah. We're older. We have, we're trying to start families, but I think what we realized finally was, if I put something into this, meaning my time and my effort and my content, what am I getting in return? And I think people are starting to go, what am I getting out of Facebook?
Right.
I spend 2 hours a day on it. What am I doing, and what am I getting? It's
getting clear what Facebook's getting out of it.
It's clear what Facebook's getting out of it.
Didn't you love the story that Randy Zuckerberg got all upset?
I did.
Yes.
So she's Mark Zuckerberg's sister. Mm-hmm. She posted on her private Facebook page a picture of the Zuckerberg family poking each other or something.
Right.
At the kitchen and
using the app.
It was like the app.
Yeah,
Christmas
picture.
And then a woman who is her friend.
No. It was a friend of her sister's. So, yes, this is Facebook privacy, right? Oh. So she had her photos set to friends of those who were tagged could see the photos. Sorry, go ahead.
That's normal.
Sure.
It's the default.
It's the default.
So the friend of the sister who was tagged saw the picture. There's no way of looking at it and saying, "Oh, that's private." So she tweeted it. Cute picture. Zuckerberg.
There are these tiny little icons.
Right. Oh, so there is a way to see.
There is a way to see it.
You can look at it and say, "Oh, that was
square," and they are grey. And one of them is a globe, and one of them is kind of three people, if you squint at them.
But the story is, this woman, this gal who tweeted it had 40,000 followers and worked at Vox Media or something. It was like a marketer or something.
So the word went out.
But yeah, so I think the wrong word that got used in this was private, because nothing on the internet's private, period.
And Randy Zuckerberg, of all people, should kind of know that.
Yes.
The irony, and we're all just delicious, it's delicious irony, is that the sister of the creator of Facebook is apparently unclear about how all this works too.
Right. I posted about it, and it was basically there is a difference between private and personal. And I don't know how personal has a place on the internet. Probably doesn't. But you put it online, it's going to go places.
That's what I just tell everybody. It's too complicated to know.
Yes.
And if you're putting it online, people are going to see it.
Gone.
Or there's always that potential.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that was like during Christmas.
I love that.
It was like everything was boring, and then all of a sudden, you wake up in the morning. My fiance's mother was like, "The Zuckerbergs were on TV this morning." I'm like, what is going on? It's Christmas.
So this is Christmas.
Yep.
So I just stuck a link to the icons in the chat room. I zoomed in on them.
There you go.
So have a look at those. Look. So you can obviously tell by looking at these two.
Wait, don't tell me.
The one on the left means everyone can see it, and the one on the left means that only some people can see it. I mean,
I get that.
What the hell?
Sure.
Wait, if I make it really small, is it easier? No.
They are literally 10 pixels square, and they are grey.
Oh my goodness!
There you go. We should give this as
a public
digital
company, folks.
Hidden element. That's what they do.
Digital Rorschach test. What does this mean?
Hold on, let me cover my left eye.
I think it means we're having cracked crab for dinner.
Oi, that's interesting.
Yes. I don't know what that means. Good, nice job, Kevin.
Yeah, that was
Thank
quick,
you.
Very quick.
How'd you do that?
You got it queued up
when they first came up. I found it on my stream, but that's the point. The point is, these things are hard to explain, but also they're not actually trying that hard to explain. They're doing better than they were. When you sign up for a Facebook app now, it actually gives you some options about who can see what it shares. So when an app says, "I have to be able to post on your behalf," it's like, well, yeah, but only I get to see them. Thank you until I trust you. So there's a set of nuances around these permissions that are actually quite hard to explain to people. And the first iteration of this, we were trying, when we were inventing this stuff collectively, we were trying to replace, give me your username and your password to the other service so I can pretend to be you.
Right.
And let's give you some other permissions. So the first iteration of that was it had to be at least as easy as that. Yeah. And if we gave you a page full of choices, people would just back away.
This is why I like Google Plus Circles. It's just easy to figure out.
It's not that easy. When you started, communities blew it out of the water. It's like, why am I? Well, I'm getting messages.
Communities did blow things up. Yes.
Google does that all the time. It's not so much a privacy thing. I think Google learned from Buzz what not to do in that regard. But it's an overflow of information.
I think the last time we were on, it was when Scoble blew up about events.
Yeah.
That video where he was cursing his head off.
He got invited to every event. I immediately made those changes to my settings so I wouldn't get that stuff. All right, so there's... Go ahead.
The other day, we were having a microformats meetup in San Francisco.
You had a little anniversary dinner.
We have these dinners every so often, and there's usually like 10 of us turn up, but we try and tell a lot of people about it so they can turn up if they want to. And it's we sit and eat food and geek out about web standards. It's not everyone's cup of tea. So I thought, okay, I will publish on the microformats thing. I'll do it on Facebook. I'll do it on Google+. And the problem is, on both of them, it's really hard to say, I want to invite people who are within 50 miles of this event. Right. I don't mind, I should like to invite Leo, my friends in London. They're not going to fly out for this. It's just a bunch of us having dinner. And so on Facebook, I went through every single person in the list and was like, are they here? And on Google+, I thought, I've got groups here. And they're smart about targeting. So if I just add my Geeky Friends group and my Microformats group, then it'll only show them if it's nearby because it knows where I am.
That's nice.
Now, and no, it doesn't. It doesn't at all.
No.
So I got 16 pages of people saying,
you would think it would do that. It doesn't.
Thanks for the invitation, but I'm in London. Or one friend in this long conversation said, oh, great, I'm doing something else, but I'd love to come along later on. And then we eventually realized he was in New York and thought I was in New York and having an event there because...
Mass confusion.
So, straightforward feature requests to both of them. When I'm inviting people, give me draw a circle around this thing and show me which people are within this distance. And ideally now, but even just home location would be enough. Because I've had this one before. I go on a trip to New York or London and I say, great, I'd like to see who else is around and get together with people. And I've got to do the same thing of, hi, I'm in New York. I have to tell everyone, hi, I'm in New York, come to dinner. And then I've got to call a New York restaurant and say, well, I've got somewhere between 1 and 50 people coming to dinner because I don't know who's coming. Or you've got to sit there and individually poke everyone and go, are you around? So some actual understanding of geography will be really nice for these things.
Yeah, I just saw that.
All Things D says there's no YouTube app for Windows Phone. Microsoft's response is, it's not our fault. Google is preventing us from building a YouTube app for Windows Phone. Microsoft VP and Deputy General Counsel Dave Heiner wrote a long post this morning about YouTube's lack of support for its mobile platform and how that affects its users.
Interesting.
Microsoft says, we've been trying for years to get a YouTube app working, and we can't because...
I thought the... Oh, this is about Windows Phone. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah. See, Google, of course, made a good one for Apple that has replaced the old one.
iOS, yes.
The Android's very nice. Android has good YouTube support. Why they wouldn't want Windows Phone to have it? I don't know.
Well, no, I think they have to take is market's too small, and the web version works. This is a platform starting to change for them. Because they used to spend a lot of time building mobile apps for all different things. And there was a huge mobile team in London building BlackBerry apps and all these other random things. And now they say, okay, we have Android. That's a lot of phones. Yeah. There's iOS. That's a lot of phones. The others, well, maybe.
What does it say about Microsoft?
Google, according to this Microsoft Council, last month, this is a quote, we learned from YouTube that senior executives at Google told YouTube not to enable a first-class YouTube experience on Windows phones.
What does that mean?
Well, first-class being an app as opposed to...
This was a blog post that Microsoft put out?
Yeah, by their general counsel, who I don't think is going to make stuff up because he's a lawyer. He understands.
Is this a legal issue?
No, but I don't know why he's blogging about it, but he is.
I don't know.
It's in their public policy blog. Oh, I know why. Because he wants government intervention.
Government intervention. Look, I wouldn't build an app for Windows Phone right now. It's just... Look,
developers are saying, I won't build it out for Windows Phone even if Microsoft pay me to. It's not worth my effort.
Well, Microsoft is paying people to build apps, and they won't.
And they still won't.
And they're still not doing it, yeah.
Google's response, contrary to Microsoft's claims, it's easy for consumers to view YouTube videos on Windows phones using our HTML5-based mobile website, including viewing high-quality video streams. In other words... We've worked with Microsoft for several years to help build a great YouTube experience on Windows phones. In other words, we're not going to write an app. We don't need to. There's a web.
Yeah.
I mean, it's heavy-handed, but so what?
Well, Google has not. It's interesting how Google has shifted a little bit and is willing to be a little bit more heavy-handed, especially with Microsoft turning off support for EAS, for instance.
Yes. Well, hey, if Windows Phone was selling off the shelves, I think they would build an app. Like, if there was a bunch of users and they were getting a lot of requests saying, we want this, I think they would build it.
Well,
right?
In the holiday week, according to Flurry, which is an app analytics platform, Android and iOS device activations increased 150%.
Combined, yeah.
50 million. No. See, when Microsoft's selling maybe 1,000, 10,000, 500,000 even, 50 million a week.
Yeah. I would, if I'm a company, I'm focusing on iOS and Android.
So it was 20 million devices this time last year.
Wow. 50.
Well, and web. Yeah, the other thing is you do the web version because that work on...
And everything.
It always works, yeah.
And yeah, okay, you may say, I want to build iOS first, I want to build Android first, depending on what you're making and who your target is. But you build a web version as well, unless you're particularly silly.
Who else doesn't have a Windows Phone app? Does Instagram have a Windows Phone app?
No. Nobody does.
Exactly. So what's... Yeah.
Facebook doesn't even have a Windows Phone app.
I don't know. See, that's how much I know. So there are lawyers writing a blog post about it. You know what? No, I won't even get into it.
But it isn't anti-competitive. I mean, if you put that together with turning off EAS.
I don't know. Kicking out Google Maps from iOS, was that anti-competitive? Sure.
Yeah. There's no Google Maps on Windows Phone either.
It was
on the web.
On the web.
But that was, that's the legacy of a different fight, right? That was the, several years ago, I can't remember exactly when, it was shortly after I left Google, so it must have been around 2008. Google wanted to build apps for iOS, and Apple wouldn't let them. And they wouldn't let them build Google Voice, and they wouldn't let them build Latitude, and there was a whole fight about it, and they went to the FCC and blah, blah, blah. And after that, Google were like, well, I'm not sure why we're paying all these iOS engineers to build stuff we can't ship. Let's make sure we build the Android one first, because at least we know we can ship that.
Right.
And, and the maps, when, the other thing, and this is sort of goes back to the Android thing, when the iPhone launched, it didn't have any way of doing apps unless you were Apple or you built web stuff.
Right.
And so Apple had built the Google Maps, the YouTube, and all these things that they felt they had to be there for it to be a first-class thing. But they were doing the UI and they were calling the Google APIs. So is this, part of the argument between Apple and Google was Google isn't providing APIs for the bits of maps that we want to do, like turn by turn and stuff, which which they've built into the Android app. Google has now made an iOS app that does that. So is what Microsoft really saying is YouTube isn't providing us good enough API hooks to do the things that they're doing in their other app? Is that what this argument really is?
Well,
Well, what they really want is they want the government to intervene and say, no, we have to have an even playing field for
Is every Microsoft application on Android? Did they make Android apps? Can I get
No. Actually, in fact, there are Microsoft applications that aren't even on Windows Phone. The PhotoSynth, for instance, which is on iOS, is not available on Windows.
There you go. Case closed, Mr.
They should
Lawyer.
sue themselves.
Why can't I run Microsoft Word on my Android device?
17.4 million iOS and Android devices were activated on Christmas Day.
That's insane.
So I want to see the developer dashboards link.
Let me show you. You just put this in the chat.
Moved. It still says December 3rd. So we should keep an eye on this and see when they update this.
So what is this? This is in the last 14 days. How many devices in what OSs have accessed Google Play? Cupcake through Jelly Bean.
That's what it's supposed to be, but it says
they haven't updated.
Not the update since December the 3rd.
Let's ask. Let's get them to do that.
We should find out that because I want to see what that chart does over Christmas, because that would be interesting.
All right, let's find that out. We'll get into that.
Because
we'll figure it out.
Particularly for web developers, because the people who are on Gingerbread and less have still got the bad browser. You cannot install Chrome on that.
Right.
So 60% of Android users, according to this, can't be running a browser that's actually caught up with the rest of the world.
Mm.
Do you credit the rumors also reported on TechCrunch by Mike Butcher and I think by the Wall Street Journal that and others that Apple might be buying Waze? I don't buy that.
I don't buy it either, but Apple's got to do something. I mean, look, Apple wants to make its Maps solution really good, and it wasn't.
Neither side is commenting, but TechCrunch says another source confirms negotiations between Apple and Waze are advanced. Waze wants $750 million.
Good for them.
Apple's willing to do $400 million plus another 100 million in incentives. Waze had less than $1 million in revenue last year. See, the mistake is you don't want any revenue. That's how Instagram got $1 billion.
Zero.
Because if you have revenue, then you've got a multiple of that revenue.
Well, then in this case, you have existing contracts that you have to deal with when you purchase somebody. Obviously, Waze. I mean, Waze is power oriented.
Love Waze.
Maps, right?
Love Waze.
It's one of the
the advantage Waze has over Apple Maps and even over what it would give Apple a jump up over Google and Nokia is that Waze is basically all crowdsourced.
Correct.
So it's watching your car drive around, and that's how it knows where stuff is.
Right, which is the stuff that Google Maps does. But Waze also explicitly lets you mark stuff on the map and say there's a radar trap in.
Right.
It's a little more real time than Google Maps, I betcha. Maybe not. I don't know.
Maybe not. Maybe a little bit more, but maybe not as comprehensive as far as coverage.
Oh, yeah. And places, there's no places. There's no POI stuff at all.
But they buy them. If they buy them, then obviously that changes quickly because everybody's got an iPhone.
Big story, probably buried the lead. Ubuntu is announcing Canonical, the makers of Ubuntu, Mark Shuttleworth's company, that has really done a good job, I think, of commercializing Linux. It says, we're going to do a phone OS. First devices will ship early 2014.
Bravo.
Some people were thinking, because from the teaser from the last few days, it would be a touch interface to Ubuntu. But no, it's a mobile version of Ubuntu built around the existing Android kernel, which is Linux, and drivers, but doesn't use a Java virtual machine. Dalvik, which is the virtual machine that Android uses, is a Google creation. And, of course, remember, Sun was a little ticked about this.
There is an issue, a kerfluffle.
Saying this is
Google
not...
is fairly careful not to call it a Java virtual machine.
Yeah, because they didn't want to...
I can't believe it's not Java.
Yeah. It's something.
But it's pretty much compatible with the Java VM, but...
Well, and that's what Sun didn't like, because it was more Java Plus, right? It was a JVM Plus.
It was, you use the same tools.
Yeah. Ubuntu for Android, which was announced last year, I remember seeing it at CES, is going to be the first step. And then at some point, there'll be a kind of a native, non-Java phone OS based on Ubuntu, supporting ARM and x86. Intel must like that.
Now's the time. I see Microsoft.
I'd hate to get into the phone business right about now.
Well, there's a whole set of these. The sort of open source tide is broken. There's Tizen, there's the Firefox browser, there's the Firefox phone. Suddenly people are saying, "Oh, you mean we can do this too?" But
remember Migo, and I mean there were a lot of other open source phones.
I'm not saying they're all going to succeed, but it's we're seeing that there's a possibility space out there for people to do this, and what this partly says is the carrier lock has gone.
Yeah.
Stage one of any mobile business used to be, let's go and talk to some carriers, and this is no longer true.
Right.
And there's a huge, currently untapped smartphone market in the underdeveloped worlds, where the iPhone and most Android phones are way too expensive still.
Yeah. I liken this approach to what Opera does with browsers, right? Is Opera ever going to be the number one browser? Probably not. It's going to be number two? Probably not. But it's in there and making noise.
Is it making money? I guess it is.
They have all kinds of. They have all kinds of other little sub companies at Opera.
Right.
But now's the time. If Windows Phone isn't doing well, if I'm going to do an OS now,
Well, BlackBerry 10, everybody's talking about it, coming out at the end of the month. Woo!
One day.
Woo! Tomorrow?
I don't know.
Huh? One day. January 30th, I think.
It's coming. It's almost too easy to
you know what they're going to have?
What?
A thing that means that you can't take a picture quietly. You have to hold the phone like, I am taking a picture now.
Watch out.
That's for business. That's for government. Because that's a problem with these phones is people bringing camera phones, and you can't bring them into most secure installations, military installations.
Well, look, they still have every BlackBerry user I know is obsessed with them.
You just put some tape over it? No, because spies will put in see-through tape over it.
Yeah.
It's like, you think I can't hide a camera in anything else I'm wearing?
That's a good point.
Come on.
Unless you have an invisibility
cloak. That's a good point.
Do you know how big cameras are these days?
Engadget was at the launch, and apparently Ubuntu showed a Galaxy Nexus phone, which had been modified to run Ubuntu for phone.
Pretty.
It's pretty.
Well, that's the other interesting thing about this is it's the same with the Firefox phones. They're basically taking Android models and running them on that because there's this available infrastructure of these devices that will happily boot a Linux kernel for you, and then you can install other stuff on top. So in some ways, this is an outgrowth of the alternate Android OS hacking community. And if people are just taking a bit further and saying, well, what if we replace a bigger chunk of this?
Right.
So I think that's healthy. I think it's good.
Yeah.
This it slides in from up, down, left, and right, kind of like the Windows 8 Charms bar.
Pretty, actually.
Yeah. Can you show this, John? So you slid down to get the messages, kind of like notifications. Slid up to get home. You get an application menu by sliding in from the left.
Yeah, I like that.
Look at that.
That's pretty neat UI.
You know what else? It's fairly snappy, isn't it?
It looks like it.
Anyway, for those not watching on video, you can go to Engadget.com and look at their first hands-on of...
I mean, it's worth taking a look.
It's cool.
Right?
Looks good. What about Intel getting into the TV business? At first, the rumors were they would announce it at CES. Intel was quick to say, not going to be ready.
Doesn't happen every year.
Internet-based TV service and hardware to take on Apple TV. One person, according to the Wall Street Journal, one person familiar with Intel's thinking, the shill who called us from Intel's PR department, predicted the company would launch its offering by mid-2013. Maybe not even till the fourth quarter.
Maybe not until 2018.
Citing delays in reaching content licensing. Isn't that the issue that Apple's facing and everybody's facing? I was thinking about this.
Apple isn't facing it. Apple has it fairly solved. They will sell you TV shows, and they've got pretty much the big companies there.
Yeah, but they're not a set-top box yet. They're not. They haven't got the deals with the live incumbents yet. That NBC, CBS, and CBS and ABC are saying.
Okay, I don't care about that. But that's
but people care about that. I know you don't care because you're an erudite Britisher.
Well, I watched the BBC live stream through VPN, but that's a different story.
That's different because you can do that because the BBC's paid for by the public in Britain. Mm-hmm. But here, the networks, they even block Hulu, or unless, they even block Google TV unless you're watching it through the Hulu. They're very funny about
Television's
this.
a mess.
They're nervous about this.
I'd pay the BBC for it if I could, but I can't, so I have to use the tunnel.
You would give them money.
Oh, yeah.
Just as I would give HBO money to let me watch it without a subscription to Comcast.
Sure.
I was watching the Top of the Pops compilation of Christmas records from the UK on Christmas Day, and that was very enjoyable and hilarious.
Bet you didn't have any barking dogs in there.
Oh, no, they were even weirder. This was like really straight. Like, I remember that. Jesus, that was surreal, wasn't it? What the hell? Why are these?
Is it like the Eurovision song?
Singing a cappella songs.
Oh God, I would like to hear that.
Yeah. Oh, it's. Well, you probably wouldn't actually.
You know what I'm watching on BBC America that I really like is The Hour. Have you seen that?
So I've watched the first episode of that. I haven't actually caught up with it, but I've seen bits of it.
I'm a big fan of the In-Betweeners.
I think the first one is up on the first series up on Netflix. I think that's where
yeah. You can watch it, and I think I can get it. I bought it on iTunes. Is what I did.
Okay.
Nice.
But I could have. But it's good. I can do my imitation.
That's pretty good.
It's pretty annoying. I was a DJ for years. I played that every freaking Christmas.
This is one of these weird things for me. Is that the American Christmas music is completely different from the British Christmas music, and partly it's
just with accents.
You don't have any carols here. You only have actually secular Christmas songs.
Oh yeah,
but
rocking around the Christmas tree. It's all that crap.
Yeah, but the British ones are also just sort of strange,
But you have things like "God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen." They're actual carols,
right? But there's also all these like novelty Christmas records by by bands.
We got those too.
You're like, what's that?
Yeah.
And they're not they're not like they're not, let's sing the classics. They're like, we just made up a Christmas song.
Well, that's what you're listening to in America. It's just they're old. Yeah. They're so old that they're not current bands. Grandma got run over by a
1940 or something. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the same thing. They're not carols. They're just they're like.
When you've got with Santa Claus is Coming to Town, which is like 40 years old now too, isn't it? Right.
Yeah. It's an oldies thing.
Well, why has no one written a new Christmas song?
Well, I'm thinking Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Father Christmas, and then I realized that was 30 years ago.
That's old to me.
That seemed modern to me. It's old stuff.
So that's the challenge. People write new Christmas songs. Good Christmas songs.
I'm sure Taylor Swift has a new Christmas song.
Bieber has his Christmas album. They all have them.
Bieber. Do you like Bieber's ink? You're a fan of ink.
Bieber got a tattoo?
A tattoo. He has many tattoos.
He's old enough?
Well, we don't know how old he is. I'm sure he's actually 43. Just looks like he's 18.
I'm very surprised by this.
Oh,
he's changing his image? He's a bad boy now?
I think he's actually a bad boy.
Yeah. I mean, his car gets pulled over like every day.
Well, it was sad story yesterday. The paparazzi who got killed trying to take a picture of his car. Here's his leg tattoo.
Goodness sakes! I mean, I can't pass judgment.
See, that's the foot of a 40-year-old man. That is not an 18-year-old foot. He's got bunions, for Christ's sake.
Well, he's on stage. I don't care. Honestly, good for him.
I think that hair hides more than just his forehead.
I think he should work on not getting pulled over. That's what you should work on. Whatever.
Well, we got to this. Google, I like this from Business Insider. I don't know if it's true. I will pose it to you. Our esteemed guests today. By the way, if you're just tuning in, Jeff Jarvis and Gina have the year off. Kevin Marks from Salesforce.com and TumbleVision.tv and Drew Olanoff, now of TechCrunch. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Our pundits of the week. This is Nicholas Carlson writing at Business Insider. Google is attacking Apple from the inside out. They're actually making an interesting point that basically a lot of us take the Apple apps on the iPhone, move them to a folder on the back page, and use Google's Chrome.
There you go.
Did you do that?
On my Mini, that's
right. It's all Google and Kindle, and there's no Google Plus.
Yep.
The Google Search tool.
Spotify.
Gmail instead of Apple Mail.
Yep.
Google Maps instead of Apple Maps. YouTube.
Is there a Gtalk app that works yet?
You can do Hangouts with the Google Plus app, but I don't think you can do Gtalk.
There's messaging. There's nested messaging, which somehow is different than GChat. I don't even know. Yes, but you can.
That is a problem that Google has to address, by the way, which is a plethora of strange things.
Things need to be
tied
up nicely. Yes. It's interesting. It's the old Trojan horse thing, right? It's like, but I'll tell you what. I don't know what their overall strategy is, but the mobile folks, the mobile designers over at Google,
they're doing great.
They got the groove back
because
their
apps
are phenomenal.
App is great. The new YouTube app, which mirrors very nicely the new YouTube web interface, is really well done, I think.
And Maps is just it's phenomenal. It's
not as pretty as Apple Maps, but at least it has the places in the right spot.
They did some new things with it. The UI and UX is like completely. It's not what people were expecting. And they've worked on it for a long time. They worked on it way longer than people thought.
Liz Gaines wrote that 2012 was the year she stopped using Apple's iOS apps.
Indeed.
I haven't used, she says, Stocks, Compass.
I forgot about Compass until I read her article.
She uses Compass.
Yeah,
Instead of music, she uses Spotify, TuneIn, and Songs. Instead of Apple's Weather Live. Actually, there's a lot of great weather apps.
Yeah, there are.
Instead of Notes, Evernote. Google Maps, Chrome, Gmail. It's not just Google. Everybody, really.
A lot of people have Gmail accounts or Google accounts, and you can use Gmail within Apple Mails, but the experience isn't that great.
So smart of Google to just not take it on head on, just say, we'll just keep making better iOS.
We'll take our time.
See how you feel about that.
Exactly.
Well, but it's also the stuff always worked there because it would work in the browser. And it's like, okay, now it's worth spending the time to do this and make this work there as well. So you never not been able to use it on there, even when Apple was like finding them fairly hard. And now it's like, now Apple is being more calm about it and letting them build apps.
Now I understand. That's
some good ones.
That's what that Microsoft deputy counsel was saying. Why isn't Google trying to take us over from the inside?
Because nobody gives a crap. That's why. When more than 40 people buy a phone.
On there, it's not worth.
We don't want to take you over from the inside.
I used to work for an app development company, and we sat there and we discussed Windows Phone. It's like, do we want to build it? No. Survey says, waste of our time.
Everybody has a limited budget.
Sure.
There's no infinite. Even Google doesn't have an infinite development budget. And you have to always make some decisions.
It's another thing that you have to pay attention to. Once you build the app and it's in the store, you have to maintain it. You can't let it go to crap. Whatever. We'll see.
Weird MI in our chat room says, Microsoft is taking itself over from the inside. That's actually, I think, what happened.
Probably.
It's like from Alien.
Lawyers are blogging. Merry Christmas, lawyers are blogging.
Ouya ships consoles to developers. Gosh darn it, why didn't I buy into that? I bought into every Kickstarter thing there is. I haven't received one thing. I got a bra, which, by the way, is being sued by another bra manufacturer, the Joey bra. It's a pouch. It was a bra for your iPhone. And then somebody said, a doctor told me, you should not put you shouldn't strap. No, it's for your boobies. You shouldn't strap your iPhone to your breast. That's going to give you man cancer. So I don't wear it. Actually, it was too small.
Oh, that's
for my stocky friend. No, I got it for a friend.
Sure.
Who actually has breasts. But the point being, that's the only Kickstarter project I have received yet.
I can't wait for this thing. I wish I had bought the developer one.
I'm sad now.
I'm stoked.
Those of you who spent $699 for this, it's an Android-based game platform, right?
Yep.
What you would get is the developer console. There's only 1,200 of them. But they're being shipped out now. There was a lot of incitement when this happened. I wonder if Jason Howell or somebody from All About Android. Jason, did you buy an Ouya? Did you buy the Ouya on Kickstarter? No, see. Did you buy a Joey bra?
So what's different about Ouya than just plugging Android into the TV?
Well,
controller.
It's
controllers.
A market, right? A market and a
framework.
It's
got a sit-back experience, a lean-back experience.
That's
all software.
Talk about perfect timing.
It's a cube the size of your fist with a Tegra 3 processor. It's kind of a little low end, but all right. Quad core, a gig of RAM, 8 gigs of flash, HDMI with 1080p, 802.11 BGNN, Bluetooth 4, a USB port, and ice cream sandwich.
I forget how much they raised. It was just ridiculous.
Let me go to Kickstarter. Who did? Tom? Tom Merritt ordered one.
A new thing just
Tom Merritt wins in the game. They raised $8.5 million. That's 900% over their asking.
Now they have 63,000 built-in users who will use this platform. Maybe that's a way to launch.
First, you got to get a game going on it.
Well, so the developers now have it in their hands, maybe, and they can start making their games. It solves.
You can go to ouya.tv now and buy pre-order it.
How much is it?
$99.
That's not cheap.
That's not bad. It's not bad. But again, like with all Kickstarter things, there's always this kind of pre-order one.
But you're right. Will there be a good game?
Will there be anything? Will it even come out?
Right? Will there be a good game?
Yeah, you get one controller, extra controller, $30. It's $99. That's pretty tempting. It'll be angry. It'll have Angry Birds.
I'll bring it in when I get mine. And you can,
I like going to my Kickstarter page and looking at my history of the things that I have backed.
That you have not gotten.
That I have never. Oh, they want my password. Okay, let's just log in here real quickly. Just curious.
Patron of the arts, Leo. That's
what I am.
Are you a Kickstarter guy, Kevin?
I've done some things on it. I bought a few bits and pieces in there, and XOXO was the biggest thing I spent on it, which was definitely worth it.
That was cool. That was the conference.
Yeah.
That's a really... And you went to that. I know you were at it. Did you speak at it?
Yeah.
That's
no.
cool.
But I backed it like within a couple of hours of it going up, so I actually got a ticket, and that was great. And I bought chili sauces and a bunch of other random things off Kickstarter.
Well, let's see. I bought an ostrich pillow. Supposedly that's coming.
Okay.
I did get the 10 Tera eco-friendly bamboo case for the iPad.
Talk about transparent. You're just showing it all right here.
Oculus Rift. That's that virtual reality headgear.
Okay.
They got my money, but they nifty mini drive. This is a goes in the MacBook and acts as in the SD card slacks as an external drive. Nice. I'm glad this didn't go. I pledged $1,000 to have them record an album on the moon. So it was unsuccessful.
Wonder why.
Coffee filter system. Collecting my money.
None of these?
Not Joey Bra. That's it. That's the one thing I got. The Pebble. Remember the Pebble e-watch? What did they raise? Millions of dollars.
Ridiculous amount of money. Yeah.
Dice. I got these dice. This got funded in over a year ago. Nothing.
So what's the?
Oh, but here, Diaspora. That was the first thing I did on Kickstarter.
How'd that happen? How'd that turn out?
Facebook replacement.
But what is it? But what happens if they never ship it? You don't get your money back?
No, of course not. You're an investor. You're not buying nothing. Don't imagine you're buying anything.
There should be a whole market for things that people have funded but didn't get done that people can come along and do and make money.
No, I think there's a reason they didn't get done.
Well,
so Intel's TV. Let's get back to this subject.
Yes.
What is this going to be that it's not, the Apple TV's not, besides running an Intel processor?
It sounds Me Too to me. I don't know. Until anyone can get the control of all the live television and do the deals with the networks, I'm not sold on.
It's tough.
A web TV. There's been web TV for 15 years. Remember web?
Why is Intel doing this? What is it? I mean, traditionally they make the stuff so that other people can do these things.
I guess.
Intel doesn't make PCs. They make designer reference PCs, but they don't make PCs. Maybe now that Microsoft's making PCs, that Intel says, well, we got to get in the game. They don't make phones.
I don't know, unless they have something really good.
But why? I think this is going away. There are all these little Android HDMI sticks you can get for like $50 now. That is the size of an HDMI connector. You plug it in the back, and it'll drive the screen, and it'll connect to any networks you've got lying around and use Bluetooth devices. And Apple has already set the price point very low on this, to the point where Google's Nexus Q could compete with.
Right. That was $300.
That was $300. The Apple thing's $100. They're very nice. They do their job. Yeah. But these Google sticks are $50, $40.
Roku's still doing well.
I got a Roku stick. Plugs into the MHL HDMI port.
Yeah. So there's that.
And if you buy a TV, you've already got all that features built in now. So I don't know where the opportunity lies.
The UX of the TV is still like in the dark ages, unless they've changed a lot in the last year or so. But
you know who I look at? I look at TiVo, because TiVo did everything right. Great UI, really worked, wonderful.
Yes,
it should have been the set-top box. And for a brief moment, DirecTV actually did have a set-top box with TiVo built in, and then it went away. And yeah, people buy TiVo and they're still alive, but it's not. It can't take off because you have to have an IR blaster, and it's too complicated.
Regular folks can't figure that out.
It's got to come as a set-top box.
It does. But again, this is like the cable, the cable companies and the network saying no.
They don't want to do it.
No, they don't want to lose ad revenue from people who record stuff and then skip over the advertisements.
So we got Kevin Marks on. By the way, coming up at 3 o'clock, we've got an incredible triangulation you're going to want to stay tuned for. Dan Ariely, the author of Predictably Irrational, will be on.
Oh, cool.
What a great book.
Love that book, yeah.
If you want to understand why the Wall Street Journal has 3 different prices, it's cheaper to get the Wall Street Journal online plus paper than it is just to get the Wall Street Journal online. Why? Dan explains that. There's a reason.
For reasons.
It's brilliant.
Oh.
So, have you read that book, Kevin?
I love when people explain things.
Wonderful.
I've read that. Well, I keep getting. I accidentally got signed up for the Wall Street Journal to be delivered. Now I can't get rid of it. It's really annoying.
I know. They want you to get the paper. I don't understand why. It costs more not to get the paper. Why? There's a reason. Stay tuned.
And you'll find out.
Google's, but I'm glad you're here, Kevin, because you can explain this. VP9. VP8 wasn't good enough, so now we have VP9. Is this WebM?
Whoops.
He's gone. He hung up.
He's like,
I don't want to talk about that. We should explain that besides being the microformats guru, but Kevin was the guy who brought QuickTime to Apple, was responsible for QuickTime at Apple, knows codecs very well, is the expert on that, and of course Skype took this moment to disconnect him. So
it's building up the excitement. Because I sure know nothing about this.
Chrome has so VP8 was the idea of VP8 was this is a codec that is unencumbered. This is the problem that everybody has with all the other video codecs. There we go. We got Kevin back, so he can explain this.
This is the irony. Just as you mentioned this, my Skype flashes on.
Yeah, of course. Chrome has VP9 built in. So, and then also this new Opus audio compression, which I've been starting to hear about. This is another open source, or is it open? Is it open source?
Oh, I'm not sure. I think there is an open source implementation, but there's.
Oh dear, the leaf blower brigade has arrived.
Yep, sorry about that.
So Kevin, I love Kevin because he is. You could tell he worked at the BBC. He worked in television. He's always looking for the beautiful backdrop. We've had Kevin call in from atop the Moscone Center at Herba Buena Gardens in San Francisco. Beautiful. He's always in his backyard, or garden, as the Brits want to call it. I don't know where you are. It looks like you're in your garden. But unfortunately, so are the gardeners. So, let's see. VP9 and Opus are codecs. The problem, of course, with H.264 and H.265 and HEVC is that these are encumbered by patents and they're owned by somebody. And now I will interpret the hand signals.
Write it down and hold it up.
The issue, as I understand it, and Kevin, you just shake your head yes or no, is that currently HTML5 has a bracket video bracket tag, but it doesn't have any standard implementation of what bracket video bracket does.
The problem is there's dispute between the different companies about what they should do. H.264 has kind of been settled on as de facto, but that requires a patent license, which means you can't build an open source version of it.
Right. MPEG-LA owns it.
Right. MPEG-LA owns it and wants money for it. And, there's a lower threshold and upper threshold. In theory, you can actually build an open source version of it, but it's messy.
Right.
And conversely, Apple says, if we use this other one that doesn't have a patent license, we could be sued, and we're a huge target because we're Apple, and we'll be sued.
Yeah. In other words, they're saying, yeah, you can have VP8 and VP9, but you can't indemnify us against it being somehow somebody's patent they're violating. And now with the patent trolls out there, it's almost guaranteed you'll get sued. So better to get something like H.264 where it's known who owns it and you can give them a buck.
And the thing is, Apple's position hasn't changed all this in 12 years. Because when I was at Apple, I spent a big chunk of time trying to get them to ship Vorbis in QuickTime and being told, no, you can't do that. We'll get sued.
Right.
And if you make us lose our license to decompress the audio in DVDs, you'll be enormously unpopular, and I'm not going to take that risk. And that if you actually listen to what Apple is saying, they're still saying somebody somewhere will pop up with a patent on this, and it might be Dolby Labs, it might be Fraunhofer, it may be someone like that, and they will say, you cannot do this unless you indemnify us. It's a problem. It's like, you are the richest company in the world. I don't think you need to be indemnified by an open source developer. Grow up, Apple.
Right.
You're going to get me going on patents now, and that.
Yeah, we could go on and on about patents.
There's a leaf blower in the chat room.
I wish somebody would just patent the leaf blower, and we could put it out of business. MPEG-LA, I think, is spreading a little FUD about all this. When VP8 was announced, they said, well, we've talked to 12 unnamed organizations who say they have patents that VP8 violates.
Oh, boy.
Remember, Google bought On2 Technologies, which created VP8.
Two reasons. One was it was to get a bunch of good video engineers, and the other reason was to get these codecs and be able to have something that was openly licensable.
Right.
And that was investment there. And that was I think a better investment than buying up some of these patent pools they're buying from companies like Kodak and things, which seems like an enormous sort of money sink, a tax on doing business for these companies. I was having a conversation with I'm not sure I should credit who it was, but someone said, if Google actually said, if we took $1 billion and decided to fight every one of these stupid patents instead of buying the patents from this company, that would be a really useful thing for Google to do. Rob, that would actually change this thing, because there was another case today it was an Ars Technica where somebody is going around suing everyone who scans documents, not the companies that make them, small businesses that have document scanners, and demanding a $1,000 per employee license for this. And it's some bunch of lawyers on the East Coast who've bought a patent from a corpse and going around, harassing people. And then they got some publicity about it, and they've now split the company into 16 companies with 6-letter names that nobody can pronounce, and they're trying to do the sort of hide all these evil patent litigation stuff in lots of small companies and carrying on doing the same thing. So there is some massive brokenness here, and we need to just say, no, this is broken, we're going to find ways around it. And we have found ways around it.
Shouldn't Google just step up and indemnify it and say, look, all right, we understand you're nervous about it. We believe it's unencumbered. We will defend you. We will indemnify you.
Nothing to do. I mean, the question is, indemnification is messy. Right, if they said we will fight this, I think indemnification is when it's like I will make you whole and whatever. It's like no, we already have these.
Microsoft does this with Linux, by the way. Microsoft indemnifies people who use Linux, encouraging you to use Microsoft products.
Naturally,
I didn't know that one. But
isn't that wild?
That's surreal. But the one for me is that. The point is we have these patent policies for open source stuff and for open standard stuff to say this should be a royalty-free thing. And we've built up structures to do that to the point where we can all work to, Microsoft is committing code to WebKit now. That, we're at the point, we're beyond that point with the web stuff. But we haven't gone the stage further and said, and we will mutually defend each other against this kind of nonsense. Now, the web stuff has damped down a bit. There is less of the nonsense around suing everyone who's able to use a hyperlink or any of these other silly web lawsuits because they suspect they will, the big companies will stand up and hit them. But there isn't like this sort of mutual defense. And so partly, and the video stuff is still way worse, and the mobile stuff is even more a rat hole. But I think there's potential here to do this. But what's basically happening is we're just waiting for these things to expire. Most of these video patents are 20 years old nearly. Yeah. And we're just sitting here waiting for them to die out. And the sad part is we haven't come up with any new ways of encoding video in the last 20 years.
Is it 24 years and out?
20 years-ish for the duration of the patent.
Right. By the way, and thanks to the chat room for passing along this link from Broadband Reports, a patent troll named Brandywine Communications is suing internet service providers for using DSL gear. They're suing 39 ISPs to date, claiming that they violated DSL-related patent that they own.
If we just all disconnected and lived in a log cabin, there'd be patent trolls that come out for those too. Like
they've sued AT&T, Verizon, CenturyLink. They're in the process of settling with Earthlink. They're suing Windstream, Icono, Megapath, formerly Covad.
This is why companies overcharge us for things, because they have to litigate and deal with all these patent
But we know this is a problem. Why isn't anything being done about it? We've been talking about this for years.
Yeah, I like winding up David Prager about that.
Really?
He'll go. When he was on, he goes off. Yeah,
he goes off on it. I love David. Couple more stories, and we can wrap this up.
So there's also someone who's got a patent, claims to have a patent on SSL.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
Who has the patent on patents?
Yeah, that's the patent
that exists, actually. There's a patent on patents.
Of course it does.
There's a patent on patent trolling that was filed by, what are they called? What's that?
Intellectual Ventures, Nathan Myhrvold's?
No. It's even weirder than that. What's Dick Cheney's company that was involved in
Halliburton?
Halliburton
has a patent on patent trolling?
You would.
I'm moving to North Korea. That's actually where Google's Eric Schmidt is going.
There, let's all go.
He is going to North Korea on a private humanitarian mission led by former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson, according to the Associated Press. That's cool. He's not going he's going as a private citizen.
Yeah. He's got time on his hands now. He's
going to bring old fruitcakes. He's got a few.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's bringing. That's neat. Moving along, Samsung, speaking of patents, in its Apple dispute, tried to seal the sales data. Lucy Koh, I love Judge Lucy Koh. Yesterday, denied Samsung's request to keep sales figures secret during their appeal of the $1 billion judgment that Apple won against them. So we'll find out at some point in the near future exactly how many phones Samsung has sold.
Stay tuned.
That'll be fun.
I think so.
Nice to have hard numbers.
It'll.
And in other court news, Amazon has won dismissal of Apple's false advertising claim. This happened in Oakland, California. U.S. District Judge Phyllis Hamilton said, no, you can use the term App Store. Apple said that Amazon was confusing people by using the words App Store for their Amazon Android App Store, and they wanted them to stop doing it. According to the judge, Amazon hasn't shown that Amazon's advertising has confused anybody or was a false statement. There was no evidence that customers were misled.
The judgment was for Amazon. Or
the courts found that the Amazon can say App Store.
Because if you're on
people
Amazon,
aren't that stupid.
If they can find one person that was confused that they thought they were on Apple's App Store, then yeah, exactly. That's so stupid. That's so much wasted money and time.
Well, you got
have
when you
to defend your brand.
When you pay lawyers by the month and you got a building full of them,
right?
You got to do something with them.
And if you don't protect your trademarks and brands,
if you don't keep them busy, they get very the idle lawyers are the devil's workshop. I'm just saying. Google Pages are going to get analytics. That's cool.
Yeah, Google Plus Pages.
Google Plus Pages. Yeah.
As they should, right?
Yep.
Google Analytics. That's a Google thing.
75% of the world's heads of state are now on Twitter. If you're one of the 25 that's not, you go, what
are you doing?
Even the Pope is on Twitter.
The Pope tweets.
The Pope's tweeting in Latin, no less, among other languages.
Good for the...
I didn't know this, but Twitter, it turns out, for years has been making a concerted effort to get celebrities to use Twitter.
Oh, yeah. They have a whole department.
Yeah, they have a whole department.
Yeah. I mean, they want certain personalities and certain people to be using the platform. It makes them look better, right? And then CNN's talking about Twitter, so they want to be able to say the Pope said on Twitter. I mean,
I feel let down by that. I don't know
anyone
why.
who's not on Twitter right now,
should
they even be on it anymore?
They did verify me.
They didn't? Or they did?
They did.
They did, okay. Well, I bet you haven't
verified me.
Accounts.
Has anybody used BlueStacks?
No.
This is an interesting idea. BlueStacks is a emulator that lets you supposedly use Android apps on your Mac.
Sold?
Hello? Yeah.
Well, I've got one of those. It's part of the SDK. What?
No, yeah, but you have to have it like a little phone window that, like, you're using a phone. This would allow them to run as kind of as apps.
Oh.
Okay,
it's still kind of weird, but okay.
I want to play. That.
There's a beta version out there. It will allow users to download and install every app on the Google Play Store.
What?
That's
amazing.
That's really cool. There's about 500,000 apps up there, and you could just run them in a window. You don't have to have the little phone window.
Sure.
You can run them, it's an emulation. They call it Layer Cake. Because it has to emulate more than just Android and Dalvik. It has to emulate ARM, right? It's not Fruit Ninja, Angry Birds.
Well, that's nifty.
Yeah.
And
BlueStacks was originally written to do it for Windows 8, Windows Phone 8. That's one way to get Android on Windows Phone 8.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, wasn't that what RIM was doing at one point? Did they give up on that? They
were.
An Android emulator.
They said that they would do that. I never tried it, but like that the playbook would run Android apps.
They said they're going to do a lot of things.
Yeah, they said they were going to do that. Record volume of apps downloaded on Christmas Day to go along with all those activations.
Right. It's the first thing people do.
It was something like, what was it? A billion? What was it? 1 billion apps?
Wow.
Wait a minute. Let me see the number if I can find it. I'm sorry. No. I overestimated. 328 million apps on December 25th.
That's still a lot.
328. That's up from 155, the average for the first 3 weeks of December.
And how many of those that were downloaded will ever get opened again?
I know. And then there's a great graph. This is Flurry again. This is that company. So it's not official, but there's this great graph of, this is December 25th. This big hump as people get up. Open their Kindle, their Mini, their iPad, their Fire, and they download crap. Just a ton of them.
Look at the split with tablets. Tablets are surging.
Yeah. In fact, Apple even said, or actually it was Andy Rubin even said that the majority were Apple downloads, not Android downloads, and mostly because of tablets.
The Mini.
Yep. All right. Cool. He says, cool. I can go home. I can go to lunch. I'm done.
I want to play with this emulator is what I'm going to do today.
Yeah, that could be a great tip. Do you normally we would do the Google changelog. Gina's not here, so I'm not going to bother with that. Normally we would do a tool, a number, and a tip of the week. I'm going to be very informal here. We've got the Bizarro Twig crew. You guys, anything you'd like to tell people that they should try or use or anything like that? I have a couple of things if you guys don't. What?
Kevin, go for it.
Let me think.
Let me ask.
Anything new I've been playing with, and I'm not sure there is.
Let me ask you. You're using the Samsung Chromebook, the hot one that you couldn't. How do you like it?
I love it. I mean, my thing with Chrome OS is like, when you think about what you use on a laptop, it's the browser a lot.
Right.
So the fact that they have an operating system based around the browser makes total sense. Yeah. And it has a hard drive. I mean, it does everything I need it to do. It's not.
It has a hard drive now.
It's not the fast. Yeah, it's not the fastest.
SSD.
It's not the fastest device, but
drive.
You can get it with 3G if you want. It's great with. It's fine. It's what $229.
It's fine. I'm looking for a computer that's just fine.
Hey, my MacBook Pro can't hold a charge for more than 45 minutes at this point.
Well, that's just because you need a new computer.
Or a new battery or a new whatever.
Yeah.
But this thing, I've been carrying.
How many hours you get?
Great. About 3.5 hours.
I'd like to see 10. If you don't get 10, I don't see any reason to do it.
I'd love to see 10 hours on anything.
Well, your tablet does 10. You got an iPad Mini there. That gets 10.
Oh, sure. Well, it depends on what services I have on. I have 3G or 4G running on it. So
will it slow it way down?
Location kills.
Will it?
And,
right.
Yeah, all those items do. But when I'm working, I use it heavily. So far, so good. I still do like the Nexus 10. I heard a lot of people who were getting their parents Nexus 7s for Christmas.
I wish I could get a Nexus 10. They had a few at the Best Buy.
Yeah.
Nexus 7 back on sale yet? I want to get my son when they were sold out.
The 10 is like 300 DPI or something. It's 270 DPI. It's incredible. It's
gorgeous, but it doesn't have they don't have a 3G model yet, so I would wait for that one. But
I don't want 3G. I like Wi-Fi.
Yeah, and you just get a 3G card. Or use your phone as
use my phone.
As a hotspot. There you go.
Or use Open Garden. Yeah.
What's that? Open Garden. There you go. There's a tip. What is Open Garden?
I told you about this last time I was on.
All right.
Open Gardens. It uses Bluetooth to connect your gadgets together, so that if anyone has an internet connection, they will have an internet connection. Oh. And it runs on Android, then it runs on laptops less well. But
I like this.
If you've got more than one Android device, it's worth having because But especially if you've got the Nexus 7 that doesn't have 3G and you've got the phone that does, or 4G, then they will talk to each other and it'll work.
Aha. It's a good one. Have you guys woken up your Flickr accounts yet?
Yes.
I love the iOS
Paid
app.
for Pro.
Love it. I'm back.
Even the Android app's good, although the iOS app is a little bit better. I'd love to see them. They'll get that.
Should be a couple weeks, but
yeah, I let my Pro lapse about 6 months ago.
Me too.
My Prolapse prolapsed.
Prolapse.
But you got 3 months free now, so.
Yeah, and then at Christmas they gave me 3 more months, so $40 for 2 years, I think it was. And I'm happy. I'm uploading pictures to it again.
It's nice to see signs of life over there again.
Speaking of too many notifications, though, that app that's notifying me, I get all these
connecting
on iOS.
Yeah, it's just like bugging me. So I got to stop.
Is it your friend blah 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 has just on TikTok?
Yeah.
It's like, so how do they load up 2,000 photos if they just joined, or did they just
exactly
connect their Facebook account and now you're telling
That's what happened, or used that Instagram importer. That's what I did.
Oh, maybe it was Instagram. Okay,
I imported it. You can tell because you have an Instagram set with all your Instagram, which is great.
Maybe they're not lying, but it's weird. It's like your friend has just joined. It's like
it has 2,000 pictures.
Yeah.
Okay, then
they're alive again. Now Flickr's waking up a little bit. Yahoo's waking up.
I'm happy about that.
It's nice to watch.
That's good.
Yahoo's. Go ahead.
I haven't got a tip. I've got a grumble. It's like why everyone goes on about Android fragmentation. I am really sick of iOS fragmentation. I don't have an iPhone. I have an iPad 2. And half my apps have this black border around them all the time. It's like, are they mourning the fragmentation of the Apple platform? What's going on here? My Android apps, they get bigger on different screens. And on iOS, everyone is still happy to make these little tiny things that that you can do 2x. And, actually it's 16x on some of the things now. It's just really, really annoying. And they need to fix it.
Isn't it funny? Because for so long, Apple, laughed at Android because of fragmentation.
Right.
But Android started out with lots of different screen sizes, so developers cope with it.
They handled it.
And iOS is like, I can still use bitmaps. I can pretend this isn't really an issue, even though there are now 12 different layouts going on here. And, and there are some nice apps. Flickr, Flickr's one of them. Flickr's like, you're a photo app. Why am I running you in 2x and everything looks pixelated? What is wrong with you?
Yes, there needs to be native eye. Yeah,
isn't even the Retina screen. On the Retina screen, I can't imagine how bad that looks.
But this goes back to the whole Microsoft thing. If people aren't building native iPad apps, why would they build apps for Microsoft phone? Okay, I'm done. Sorry. Yes, everyone build a native iPad app, please.
I do have to say that that is one thing that iOS has down. When a developer wants to show off how beautiful they can make an app, even Google, they make their most beautiful apps for iOS, right? Google Plus gorgeous, then they do it on Android. Yeah. Flickr gorgeous, then they do it on Android. If you want to say, look, we are elegant, we know UI, we can make a beautiful UI, they always do it for, I don't know if it's because it's easier or more likely because Apple users expect that.
Well, I think, but it's. I'm not sure it's easier. I mean, in some sense, it's easier because
there's some things Apple gives you as primitives.
Right. And well,
but there's animation primitive. I talked to Dave Morin at Path, and he said it was easier to do it for iOS because they have animation primitives that we had to actually rewrite for Android.
Well, there's a promotional aspect to it too, because a lot of developers, if they have a great team and are building something gorgeous, they want Apple to promote it. And for Apple to promote your app, you better be iOS only.
You better be shiny and beautiful.
Yeah. And you better be iOS only. They're not playing with you if you've already put out an Android app.
That's a very good point. Now, after you get promoted in your path and you've done well, then you can put out your Android
when
app.
an Android app comes out.
Yeah.
So that's why,
That's actually a good point.
So that's
Instagram, same thing. They waited until they got all the benefit of being on it. And
you want to be promoted. You want to be high in the. I mean, if you're high on the leaderboards and the top free apps, you get tons of downloads from that.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of it now. I found a new launcher. One of the things that Android does great is you can, basically with Springboard is it on iPhone.
That's all you got unless you jailbreak.
Yeah, you could jailbreak it, but you're pretty much stuck with Apple's UI.
Yeah.
But on Android and keyboard, et cetera. And Android, as many keyboards as you want, and there's some wonderful launchers. And I found a new one. That's free. I think it's a Google guy that developed it, and I can't remember the name of it. But I like it because it's very clean and simple. His whole idea was you're never more than 1 second away from any app on the thing.
I like that.
Yeah, it has this new folder type called Cover. It looks like, like for instance, I use my phone icon. You tap that, it launches. You double tap it, it opens up with a bunch of phone shortcuts, things like that.
That's neat.
Yeah. But I can't remember the name. So if anybody, I was waiting for the chat room to tell me, and they're failing me again.
Yeah, launchers are great. Customization is
Nova's launcher is what I use mostly, but I can't remember the name of this. It's kind of a generic launcher name. I'll find it for next Twig. Next Twig, Gina and Jeff will be back. Woo-hoo. We missed them a little bit, but it's so nice. And we've had these guys on the show with Jeff and Gina. It's so nice to have them. It's not Go Launcher. That's been around for a while. Maybe it's Apex. ADW I've used.
Action Launcher?
That's it. Action Launcher.
There you go. Web.
You the man. Whoever said that? Some generic thing. Maybe he's the guy who wrote Action Launcher.
Maybe.
There's a free version and there's a pro version. Chris Lacey is the guy who wrote this, and it's worth taking a look at. Try the free version, and you can kind of see what it can do.
Oh.
It's different, but it's really, I think, very interesting, very sweet. It's brand new, and so there were a couple of little buggies that have gone away. $3.99 for the paid pro version. Try the free version first. But I have to say, I love it that we're seeing these incredible new UIs, new launchers. People can do that stuff on Android and really play with it.
It's a competitive advantage.
Yeah,
it totally is.
It is. And I'm actually back to using Nova Launcher because I love Nova Launcher. But Action Launcher is well worth looking at if you'd like to try other launchers. I want to thank Kevin Marks for being here and his leaf blowing brigade.
They've gone now. Thankfully.
They've gone. They've moved on. That's one good thing about leaf blowers. They don't stick around long. Tumblevision.tv. Anything else you'd like to plug?
None of them. There was one thing my colleague Adam Seligman wrote on Read Write Web that's worth reading. That was about developers. I'll stick the link in the chat for that.
All right.
That was I thought was impressed with that. Basically, the sort of standout line for me was. The great thing about GitHub is it doesn't hold meetings. I want to hire people who do things, not hold meetings. I thought that was a beautiful summary of the way software is changing.
We'll put a link in the show notes to that article. I love you, Kevin. I ask you for a plug, you plug somebody else. That's what I like.
Of course.
That's what I like. But I'll give him a plug too. Tumblevision.tv and, of course, Salesforce, where you're working on the latest and greatest in communications and stuff.
Getting businesses to use the social web is a big chunk of what we're doing now.
Yeah. So social is not dead, despite what you might think. Here it is. Read, write, web, hard questions for enterprise developers who want to get ahead. It's Adam Seligman in the Read, Write, Enterprise section. Good. He's a VP of Developer Relations at Salesforce.
Yes. And he writes posts on New Year's Eve, which is pretty impressive.
Actually, that's a great time to do it. So I watch Rockin' New Year's Eve with a tribute to Dick Clark. That's fine, except that it really annoys me because I found out last year they pre-tape almost all of it like in October at Disneyland. And it's all taped ahead of time. There's a little bit of Jenny McCarthy live, and she's a nitwit. I can't watch her for more than 5 minutes.
I hate tape
So I'm
stuff.
tuning around. I want to see live, right?
Yeah.
CNN, Anderson Cooper, and Kathy Griffin. And I'm shocked what's going on. Did you see that?
It was a crap show. It was horrible.
No, I loved it.
Oh.
She tried to kiss his sardine.
Yes.
It was wild. He was like, I couldn't believe
Apparently last year she took her shirt off.
She took her shirt off.
She was trying to overcompensate. I mean, they got a thing going.
I
have a thing going.
I don't know if Anderson...
He was acted surprised a lot, but I think they expected from her.
She attempted to simulate a sex act on stage. And then, weird, because Psy of Oppo Gangnam Style walks and stands in front of her. She's up here. He's this down here.
Indeed.
And she says something like, you're really making a lot of money. You got money coming out of your butt. And then his response is, coming from you. That's a great thing to hear. It was the weirdest New Year's Eve I've ever had.
It was entertaining to say the least.
You didn't like it? I liked it.
I was just. She was a little overboard.
She was way overboard. Well, it was scary overboard. I thought Anderson.
But Anderson Cooper's reactions to her were priceless.
It was real and it was live, and so I thought,
live wins everything.
Yeah, we're gonna do this next year. I'm gonna have somebody simulate
We
a
should
sex
do a
act.
live New Year's Eve.
I thought you were going to say New Year's show, not a.
Well, you should do a live New Year's Eve show because
we will.
The thing is that there isn't a West Coast one.
I actually wanted to do one.
I tried this, and they'd show you a 3-hour recording of a ball dropping in New York.
Kevin, you and me, let's do it next year. And Drew, if you want to come. I'll tell you what, I was going to do this, and it was vetoed by the boss. But I really wanted to do this. I was going to do a 24-hour New Year's Eve show where we start in New Zealand, and every hour we have somebody Skyping in from wherever it is saying Happy New Year, Happy New Year, Happy New Year, all the way out to Hawaii, then I collapse.
Genius.
Wouldn't that be great?
Well, a collapse meaning you just fall asleep.
Well, because it's 24 hours.
Okay, as long as you're okay.
26 hours, I think, because the way the time work.
How can it be 26 hours?
Because it can.
Because there's a minus 14 and a plus 13.
So it's 27 hours.
Or
28 if you include 0.
Yeah, which is London.
I'm in.
Wouldn't that be fun?
I'm totally in.
Will you kiss my sardine? No, we're going to do that. I'm going to do that next year. I wanted to do it this year, and I actually brought it up at a staff meeting, and everybody said no.
I think people would watch it.
No, they said no, everybody would be out partying. But you're right, Kevin. There's nothing good on for those of us who don't want to go out on New Year's Eve.
Actual TV, especially on the West Coast.
It's terrible. Crap.
And
maybe I can get Cy to come by.
But you've got a cell phone.
I bet I have some. We have some people that we could probably get on the show.
Okay, next year. We'll plan this now.
Oh, if you start now, you can get a lot of cool people.
Oh, yeah.
You get Hammer to come do the Hammer dance.
Dan Ariely coming up for our triangulation episode, the author of Predictably Irrational. It's going to be great. Drew Olanoff is now at TechCrunch.com. Yes, do you have a beat?
You know what? I'm covering Google a whole lot. Twitter and Yahoo.
You got the beat. Yeah. Google,
Foursquare.
Twitter, and Yahoo. That's not bad.
A little bit of Foursquare.
Yahoo's kind of interesting. What do you think?
I mean, Flickr. It was nice to see Flickr back on track. Marissa's obviously interesting how she's shifting everything, and she's just a phenomenal talent.
They're testing a new homepage.
She's surrounding herself with really amazing people and getting people who already work there excited again.
Right.
And I went over there and visited, and people are actually excited. Like, not fake excited.
One thing that I notice is that us geeks want Yahoo to succeed, right?
Why not?
The people who grew up with akabono.stanford.edu, we really want Yahoo to come back. Right? Am I wrong?
They're in a great position because you can't lose when you've never won. They've never won anything.
Oh,
so
I want Marissa to win.
Me too.
I don't want her to take over the world. I just want her to be a great competitor for
do well at a couple things and not get involved in too much.
She started. Flickr's great.
Yep.
Thank you, Drew. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you all for being here. We do this show on Wednesdays, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 2200 UTC on TWiT.tv. Do watch live if you can, because we love having you in the chat room. As you can see, we pay attention in the chat room. And Mr. Big is signing up for Austria for New Year's Eve.
There you go.
All right. That's the first thing we have to do is line up 28 people in each time zone. That's going to be a challenge.
Sure. No, I think you can do it.
Especially some of those islands.
We'll get somebody in Vanuatu or Tuvalu. It's the Solomon Islands. It's going to be little. You want Tuvalu? Weird Am-I's taking Tuvalu. We got Ray DVD
a nice little
Scotland.
Google map with the pins where everyone are.
Fins Up DNC says, I got Times Square. We do need Times Square. And we'll have you Skype in, and we get the ball drop and everything. But via social internet.
What is TWiT? This week in year?
This week in year.
I love it.
Pittsburgh, PA. We got Lou.
TYIT, surely.
TY, this week in
the year.
This year in
the year.
This week in the year.
If you don't watch live, you can always participate by watching the show after the fact. We have audio and video versions available in a variety of formats, all of them patent encumbered. They are. At TWiT.tv or wherever you subscribe to podcasts like iTunes or the Zune Marketplace, places like that. TiVo, we're on TiVo. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week. Back with Jeff and Gina.